Today, we're diving straight into a totally fascinating psychological phenomenon. If you grew up in the analog era of the 1970s and 80s, the research we're looking at today suggests that you might possess a very unique brand of independence and mental resilience. You were essentially raised in a completely different world, and the data argues that environment fundamentally rewired your brain, giving you a distinct advantage today. So let's just get right into it. I want you to think back for a second. Can you still effortlessly parallel park without relying on a beeping screen? Do you remember a time when your parents' only real instruction for the entire summer day was literally just, be home when the streetlights come on? You'd vanish into the neighborhood for hours. No cell phone, absolutely no way to be reached. Now, looking at that through today's standards, some might mistake that for neglect. But the reality, the source material, frames it as an incredibly high-level neurological training ground for your developing mind. Section 1. The Analog Childhood, Growing Up in the 80s. To really understand how this environment wired your brain, we have to look closely at the era itself. Parents back then, well, they had either lived through immense global hardships or grew up right in the shadow of them. Because of that, they weren't exactly handing out daily pep talks or sitting you down to talk about your feelings. Instead, they handed you something much heavier, real-world responsibilities. By the time you were just 10 years old, you were probably watching younger siblings, cooking your own meals, and realizing very quickly that life simply does not pause just because you aren't ready for it. In many ways, the research points out, you were raised as small adults. Section 2. No helicopter parents and building independence. When we contrast these two eras, a really stark difference emerges. Imagine it's the 80s, your bike chain snaps and you're 2 miles from home. You didn't have a search engine in your pocket for a quick tutorial. You couldn't text someone for a rescue. You fixed it yourself with whatever you could scavenge, or you were walking. This total lack of helicopter parenting meant that when you got lost, you had to find your own way back. You built genuine, deep-seated independence out of pure, absolute necessity. Section 3. The boredom muscle and forced imagination. So because no one was constantly intervening to entertain you, you developed what the source calls the boredom muscle. Back in the analog era, you actually sat around with absolutely nothing to do. No streaming, no infinite scrolling, just endless empty time. But because you sat in that empty time, you forced your brain to exercise this crucial muscle every single day. Instead of demanding fast-paced stimulation from a screen, your brain actually learned how to actively generate its own internal stimulation. The core argument here is brilliant. That boredom wasn't some empty void, it was forced imagination. It was the exact mechanism that taught you how to build entire, intricate universes out of nothing more than some sticks and a cardboard box. It's exactly why you became relentlessly resourceful, in a way that watching 1,000 online video tutorials just can't teach a person. You were the creator of your own entertainment. Section 4. Muscle memory in chaos and handling stress today. So how does all of this translate to modern stress? Well, our sources outline several massive psychological benefits. Because your childhood completely lacked training wheels and nobody was handing out participation trophies, you developed this deeply learned relationship with uncertainty. To you, failure wasn't a catastrophic crisis. It was just a normal Tuesday. Your nervous system learned early on that effort and persistence matter way more than immediate comfort. So today, when everything is falling apart at work or at home, your brain doesn't instinctively hit the panic button. You've been through worse without a backup plan. What you rely on now isn't magic. It is literal psychological muscle memory for high-stress situations. Beyond resilience, you also learned the profound value of patience. Think about it. The analog world physically forced you to wait for absolutely everything. If you wanted to call a friend, you waited your turn for the rotary phone. If they weren't home, you just had to try again later. If you wanted to communicate across the country, you waited for a physical letter to arrive in the snail mail. This forced patience completely wired your brain to accept delayed gratification as the default standard, which is an incredibly rare trait in today's instant delivery world. Section 5. The Bridge Generation, Connecting Two Worlds. The sources we're looking at frame this demographic as the ultimate bridge between two completely different realities. You exist comfortably in the digital present. You know how to use the tech. You navigate the modern workplace like a pro. But you remember the analog past with total, uncompromising clarity. This dual reality gives you such a unique grip on what actually matters at the end of the day. Your childhood wasn't necessarily easier than today's world, but it sure felt much more honest without the constant buzzing noise of connectivity, didn't it? So, the next time you find yourself staying perfectly steady in a storm, the takeaway here is to trace it right back to that bored kid sitting on the curb with a stick in 1982. You aren't just old school or stubbornly stuck in the past. That unfiltered, unmanaged reality of your upbringing made you resilient by design. It turns out that wonderfully boring past was quietly building your absolute greatest psychological asset for the future. I want to leave you with a final thought. Sometimes we need to intentionally tap back into that foundation. If you want to start clearing the mental backlog of modern overstimulation, utilizing tools like 7-day physical planners can be a fantastic way to rebuild that analog calm. But I want you to reflect on your own experience right now. Whether it's confidently navigating a road trip with a paper map, knowing how to fix an appliance with your own two hands, or simply having the increasingly rare ability to sit completely in silence without reaching for a screen, what analog skills still saves you today? Keep exercising that boredom muscle and stay curious.